Now therefore we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Atlanta, who hereby proclaim this day, May the 22nd, 2021, as Tom Murphy Day in our fair city. In witness thereof, we cause the seal of the city of Atlanta to be here into our face. Congratulations.
We're here today to celebrate Tom Murphy and 40 years of his restaurant Murphy's in the heart of Virginia Highland. That's unusual these days to have a business owner, locally owned, lives in the area for that period of time. And, you know, he serves a fantastic meal. It's a place people come for baby showers, for brunches, for weddings, and he's been tremendous in giving back to the community as well. I'm just so excited that Tom says that they're back to their pre-COVID business. People are out and about. He's making it a safe place to eat. I've been back here, and it's one of my favorite places, and I hope people will get out as they feel comfortable and back into their local restaurants.
We're out here downtown today celebrating the completion of 4 projects that were voted on during our Downtown Decides participatory budgeting process. And we're riding a bike from one location to the other to do a ribbon cutting in each of the 4 transportation projects. Some of the projects we're celebrating today are new bike lanes in the Central Business District, the painting of an island in the middle of the road yellow so people can see it, and some new trash cans in the Sweet Auburn corridor. This is the direct result of citizens participating in this program. This is the first time we've done participatory budgeting in Atlanta, and it puts the power directly in people's hands on how tax dollars are spent, and we're just thrilled with the response and the success of the program so far.
Chastain Park is the largest park in the city of Atlanta. This is the last piece of the Chastain Park path, and it's taken over 25 years since it began, and we are here at a groundbreaking to celebrate this last piece getting ready to start. You know, the phrase, it takes a village, well, it certainly takes a village here. There have been lots and lots of organizations who have helped make this happen. I think there are over 500,000 people and probably about 250,000 dogs that use the path each year. It's an asset that is used by many, many people, from young people walking along to people on bikes to people running and exercising and folks coming after work to enjoy a stroll in the park. And the path has really been a catalyst for revitalizing the park, and so lots of park partners here today with NYO and the horse park and the pool, and it's a wonderful time to celebrate together.
Today we're here for an unveiling. We're unveiling an urban farm, one of the biggest urban farms that will be based here in District 3. And we're here to address the food insecurities that this district has faced for decades. And I think what's so innovative about this idea is that we've partnered with Washington High School, with Greenleaf Farms. We're going to be partnering with the American Heart Association to bring together an ag STEM program that's going to cultivate new, young, fresh blood in urban farming. That's going to really be focused on how we can move together as a community in addressing food insecurities within Atlanta. It is time that we take action in our own hands and we start cultivating innovative opportunities like an urban farm, like a grocery retail model where we can pipeline produce into the communities and really help lift up and support our residents.
Today we are at the East Atlanta branch of the Fulton Atlanta Library, and we are here celebrating a grand reopening. There's been renovation, some expansion, and we're just happy to say we're back in business. As one of the speakers here today, we had Commissioner Rob Pitts and other commissioners as well as the county manager. And this is a place, this is the center of our community. It's the place where you get information, and one of the things we heard today is that there's signs all over the place talking about getting vaccinated. So it's an information center, and so we're just honored and happy to be here to say East Atlanta Library is back, new and improved.
We're here today to do two things. We're partnering with the VA, the Urban League, Fulton County, City of Atlanta, Sons of Atlanta Veterans, and the Association of Vietnam.
One, two, three, cut.
This is called Centennial Yards, formerly the Gulch, and of course this whole development was passed in 2018 by the Atlanta City Council. So this is one of the first pieces of development. There's about 15 different parcels that will eventually be developed over the next 10 to 15 years. So the first portion here is at Ted Turner Drive and Peter Street, which is in the Castleberry Hill neighborhood. And there's 162 apartments that have been rehabilitated to its natural historic beauty. So this is an old building that was probably built somewhere around 1910. There are studios and 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. So this development is actually the gateway to further development in Southwest Atlanta. Castleberry Hill has really been flourishing along with other areas in Southwest Atlanta. We're just very excited about the development that's happening in this area. It's going to anchor this end of the lower end of downtown Atlanta from Marietta Street, coming back to Castleberry Hill and going further southwest. So this is something that's very exciting, and we're looking forward to more development that will take place.
Well, we are here because we are celebrating 10 years of the existence of Jenny Drake Park. And I'm so proud to be here as council member who represented this district. Miss Jenny Drake, who the park is named after, lived next door. She would call my office almost every other day. If a leaf fell off a tree in this park, she would call. And she was always a great caretaker, and so it's a great story. Today, the proclamation, of course, is celebrating 10 years of this park, but it's also great that it is the Juneteenth celebration, because we're celebrating not only that enslaved African Americans were freed, finally, when they had already been freed 2 years ago, but it's also freeing up this community to have a wonderful, lovely green space where they can come and commune with nature. So all of it comes together for the good.
Now therefore we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of the City of Atlanta, who hereby proclaim this day, May the 22nd, 2021, as Tom Murphy Day in our fair city, in witness thereof, we cause the seal of the City of Atlanta to be here into our face. Congratulations.
We're here today to celebrate Tom Murphy and 40 years of his restaurant Murphy's in the heart of Virginia Highland. That's unusual these days to have a business owner, locally owned, lives in the area for that period of time. And, you know, he serves a fantastic meal. It's a place people come for baby showers, for brunches, for weddings, and he's been tremendous in giving back to the community as well. I'm just so excited that Murphy's, Tom says that they're back to their pre-COVID business. People are out and about. He's making it a safe place to eat. I've been back here, and it's one of my favorite places, and I hope people will get out as they feel comfortable and back into their local restaurants.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are going to get started. This is Jennifer Ide, the Chair of the Finance Executive Committee. Today is Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. It is 1:30 p.m. And I believe I have with me today Council members Andre Dickens, Joyce Shepard, Matt Westmoreland, and Howard Shook. So we constitute a quorum. Do we have Mr. Matsakite or Ms. Archibald
I'm here.
online yet? Okay. Good afternoon. And I think that Matsakite is out today. So we constitute a quorum, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And Ms. Kempson-Wright, if you will read the remote meeting statement, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. This Finance Executive Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and is in accordance with the Official Code of Georgia 5014-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by the following conference bridge: toll-free access 877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the Friday, July 9th public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, citycouncil.atlantaga.gov, or the Council's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages via @ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Finance Executive Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on Friday, July 9th via atlantacityga.iqm2.com. Public comment was accepted between the hours of 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. on yesterday, Tuesday, July 13th. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute your phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents were distributed to committee members earlier, and we thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Kempson-Wright. I do not believe we have any last-minute changes to the agenda, so I'm going to make a motion to adopt our agenda.
Second, Dickens.
All right, let's open the vote on the agenda.
The vote is open.
Mr. Shook, how's your computer treating you today? Are you voice voting or are you online? There we go. All right. 6 yeses, 0 no's. Our agenda has been adopted. And I'll make a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting.
Second, Dickens.
All right, let's open the vote on the minutes.
The vote is open.
All right, our minutes have been approved. 6 yeses, 0 no's. Can we please play our public comment? I believe we have 3 comments.
Yes, Madam Chair. One moment, please.
Greetings, committee members and staff, and special greetings to you citizens and voters of Atlanta who have tuned to the City of Atlanta Finance Executive Committee meeting. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. Let's talk finance and PUR 9. In regards to item 17 on this committee's agenda, Ordinance 21-0-0466, let's talk about how neighborhood planning unit or parents and grandparents can participate in the $10,000 back-to-school efforts being proposed by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet. Let's talk finance and PUR 9. In regards to item 13 on this committee's agenda, Ordinance 21-0-0461, let's talk about the $6,500 that Councilmember Joyce Shepherd is proposing to donate to the Atlanta Police Foundation from community funds. Let's talk finance and PUR 9. Let's talk about the fact that this Finance Executive Committee will be continuing the discussion about the proposed police training facility at its meeting on Wednesday, August 11th. Let's talk finance and PUR 9. Let's talk about the grant funding opportunities that were discussed at a recent meeting of another neighborhood planning unit, but not NPUR. Let's talk finance and PUR 9. Let's talk about Councilmember Joyce Shepherd's conversation with her, what she calls her legacy citizens, senior citizens, and letting them think that crime can be assuaged simply by the adoption of the proposed police training facility. So on August 4th, when you return from your July hiatus, let's start talking finance on behalf of the residents and stakeholders of NPUR. Antonita Robinson, Collis Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Albert White, Renette L. Scott, Allison Hathaway, Sherry Williams, Cheryl Brown, Agent X, you know who you are, and you NPUR 9 cohorts and supporters. Let's talk finance on behalf of the NPUR residents and stakeholders.
Hi, my name is Anthony Malloy, and I live in Atlanta in District 2. I'm calling today to ask that you oppose the proposal to lease 381 acres of public land to the Atlanta Police Foundation to clear-cut the forest for an $80 million police training facility. The City Council has listened to hours and hours of public comments from the people of Atlanta asking to reduce the size and scope of the Atlanta Police Department and to focus on safer and more effective ways of improving public safety, like anti-poverty programs. I'm sure you are all well aware of the ways that the Atlanta Police Department used tear gas and shot rubber bullets at peaceful protesters who were demanding racial justice last summer and over the last year. The last thing we need as a city is an enormous facility for the APD to train and expand their use of those tactics. Please oppose this measure and consider uses for this land that will actually benefit the citizens of Atlanta. Thank you.
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad, a spiritual guru having a human experience, and no longer do I believe in religion. I recognize Finance Committee over review and commission. Shirley Franklin, Mr. Green, now Mr. Last Bob. We have not had transparency in put back into the wheel of the Finance Committee to make sure money that has been fed to the utilized in the southwest, southeast side has been done in a favorable way. There have been resources lacking, resource prioritized for services, and yet we don't get the services in the southwest, south side, and southeast side. The majority constituencies in this city are dark-skinned people. And wherever you find the majority of the people have no affordable housing, have no sidewalks, no curbs, allow workforce development and initiation program that provides the jobs that Mel, Mr. Williams said, Michael Sterling, that there's 400 jobs that have created, and the final matter jobs to find that in the kitchen last bottom, there was only money that went back to the federal government. $2 million was the council person has said. A lot of John Constitution found out that $2 million was in aid to help poor people in housing and other things. And Mr. Westmoreland made no comments there. Mr. Ferrari made comments that the non-workforce had 32 people that is under the management of the directorship, and yet you have jobs, and also non-technical jobs, hospitality jobs, and not in. Then you have young men, young women, especially darker people, being locked up every day. Largest number of people locked up in the state, the fourth largest state, the persons of darker people being locked up. What could be?
All right, I believe that was, Ms. Kemp's right, was that the end? That sounded like that was a little cut off, but.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's public comment.
Okay, thank you. Next, we are going to go to, we have two quarterly updates today. Let's hear from the Department of Procurement first. So our Procurement Chief, Martin Clark, we are ready if you are.
Hello? Good afternoon. There we go. Wonderful. Greetings and good afternoon, Chairperson Ide and the members of the Finance Committee. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to update you on the activity of the department that took place in Q3. And as you might guess, we have been firing on all pistons while we transform our department. We've been creating an expanded cloud strategy and improving our analytics capabilities with an eye on improving our customer experience, folks. We've done this while still completing the many solicitations and purchase orders needed to meet the supply demands of the city. And at the budget hearings, we presented you the four cornerstones of our efforts, us becoming faster, better, smarter, and easier. And I hope you will see that our efforts have been placed in meeting those criteria. And if you would please bring up the presentation for the committee. Next slide, please. Today's agenda will cover purchasing activities, operational activities, and our push to leverage technology to improve both purchasing and operational activities. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at the purchasing slide. We had over $501.8 million spent. The overwhelming area of expenditures, folks, have been in services. And one of the areas that people get confused about is the counterintuitiveness of seeing nearly 2,400 small purchase transactions and only 208 purchase orders in the service space, but yet the net dollars overwhelmingly are in services. The reason why is because, of course, the dollar spend on each service is far, far greater, people, than the average commodity or goods spend. So please don't get thrown off on what looks like a disconnect between the total purchase orders spent and the dollars spent in the goods and services category. Next slide, please. So what were those expenditures and how did DOP bring value to the city? We purchased services like the Everbridge mass notification system. And instead of agencies negotiating separate systems, we combined the service for agencies. And instead of piecemealing a background check service, we saved by enlisting a co-op to perform the service. In terms of agility, we quickly, for example, facilitated a special procurement for the erection of the Evander Holyfield statue, a collaboration between DOT, Atlanta Rec Authority, and the Hawks at the State Farm Arena. This effort, of course, resulted in the city becoming the first to participate in a citywide sports walk of fame. Next slide, please. We have been pushing to complete our infrastructure improvements projects as well, and it's an area that we have had some home runs in and some misses in all fairness. We will do, of course, better as we improve our internal processes. And you can see that we completed, for example, the Inman Park intersection improvements, the solicitation wherein we had improvements for milling and overlay in the intersections, improved striping, crosswalks, and other improvements. Next slide, please. We have improvement projects which included pedestrian improvements and sidewalk widening installations, right-of-way improvements, asphalt resurfacing, milling, ramp upgrades, for instance, and other improvements in the right-of-way. The South Fork pedestrian bridge steel ramp system project included improvements for pedestrian bridge steel ramp systems and other ramp improvements. Next slide, please. Folks, I know it's early, but I wanted to give you a brief glimpse, a preview of our annual numbers. Over 12,000 purchase orders completed, 371 solicitations, over 2,800 new suppliers onboarded. We are busy, folks. We are very, very busy. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at operations committee members. We needed to make improvements here, and we have. Changing the culture of a department is not easy, folks. Continuing in the vein of our previous updates, we continue to provide training. We brought in trainers who curated a program for our leadership team to attend classes on building a culture of accountability. Next slide. In addition, our non-management employees attended Own It training courses facilitated by the Department of Human Resources, whom we are very thankful to Commissioner Norman and his team for always providing training resources when asked. Accountability is a critical cornerstone for our future plans. If we are striving for better, we really have to accept accountability for our projects, which nets, of course, better performance. And speaking of better performance, we hired an outside consultant to assist with the update of departmental standard operating procedures. The updated SOP, along with updated training, will forge a clear path for process and decision making. The request that I made to those teams, committee members, was that they had to look at the document and the creation of the document through the optic of a new employee to the department, and also through the optic of a member of our client agency that wanted to understand our process. So we wanted to make that SOP really, really useful and granular. Currently, we're in workshops now editing and testing the SOP because, of course, it actually has hyperlinks, etc., and links to forms. And speaking of new members of the staff, we have started, of course, hiring new contract specialists and are continuing to look for great talent, folks. So if you know anybody, please send them our way. Next slide, please. Procurement is continuing to refine our processes to make them better and easier. So we did another round of reviews of our instructions to make them easier. The city's first ever top 10 list guide for potential bidders was sent out with solicitations and illustrated the most common mistakes on bids. And folks, this has already helped bidders and user agencies avoid those common mistakes on procurement submissions. We are starting to see more folks get through the process. Procurement is working on new data dashboards, but one of the challenges we had was making sure we had accurate data. So we engaged a contract data cleanup project where we removed stale contract data and updated current contract data so that the dashboards that rely on this data were accurate. Next slide, please. Well, one of the things that we spent a lot of time on previously was on our RIA forms, and it netted many non-responsive findings. We've done more training. We also relaxed part of the processes with the hopes of netting more responsive bidders, and we believe that we will see many more improvements in that space. Next slide, please. One of the things we are doing in procurement is taking a deeper dive into our data people. For example, take a look at our supplier training info. It's becoming very clear that the virtual training model is far better. It's superior. I mean, we had a 52% increase in participation, and we have insights where they're from. Interesting enough, we have folks from as far north as Maine, as far east as India, and as far west as California participating in these virtual events, folks. So it's pretty interesting to see where they're coming from. Next slide, please. We're also making sure we engage with our local trade associations to increase participation. Women and minority suppliers are a critical part of the fabric and bedrock of Atlanta's programs, and we want to continue to enhance that, folks. And so we are continuing to expand our outreach efforts, and we will do so again this year. We are engaging plans to really increase our efforts out there. Next slide. On the innovation front, we have transitioned to electronic payments. I believe we have over 4,500 vendors that are able to do electronic payments, but we had about 380 or so suppliers that we had issues contacting despite Leviathan efforts to do so. We used mail, phone, everything. We're still working on that last small group to connect, but overall, folks, we had an amazing effort through both finance and DOP to get those folks connected. Next slide. We continue to train our suppliers remotely, and it appears to be netting positive feedback, as you can see in the numbers. We had a 95% approval rating on information presented. 96% of folks indicated that they would be interested in participating in additional training opportunities. Just really positive engagement. Next slide, please. Transparency. We have gotten so much better in this regard, from the smart online tool for everyone to see the status of contracts to the new online portal for the public to start seeing our executed contract list, and also to our outreach programs. We are really expanding our transparency, folks. Next slide, please. From new inventory systems to investments in properly coding goods and services, we're really working hard on making sure we run faster, better, smarter, and easier programs. And of course, that focus is really investing in the future of our analytics people. As mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, we are definitely investing in our spend analyses to better perform. Next slide. As mentioned, here is the portal user exchange or interface that will allow the public to type a query, search for contract. This is a great team effort between AIM, Finance, and DOP. We were able to create this in a budget-neutral way by leveraging existing software. Really excited about that. Next slide, please. Smart reports. When we started to pilot the smart report in February and March, we had to deal with a lot of old solicitations that need to be completed. Hence you see in this slide the red where we were taking a very long time to complete them. We started to see almost immediate benefits when we switched to the smart report system. And if you could go to the next slide, please. You will see the green areas where we're hitting our SLA marks to complete our procurement process phases. We are still, of course, piloting this, and I go back again to early in this presentation where we're doing these data cleanups to improve the functions of these dashboards. But again, we're really excited about the improvements. Next slide, please. So, what's next? Our next biggest project is engaging spend analysis consultant committee members. We really want to better assist our clients in forecasting their goods and services and purchasing needs. We will be engaging a consultant also to make forms and applications easier and capable to be being uploaded with the hopes of both suppliers and agencies having an easier experience with procurement. Next slide, please. On August 18th, just in terms of upcoming events, Office of Contract Compliance and DOP will be doing a virtual expo entitled ARISE, A-R-I-S-E, which stands for a Renewed Investment in Supplier Education. It's going to be a business expo and a lot more, and we're really excited about that. And I apologize as I think I've run longer than expected, but I am available for any questions you may have. Again, 1,000 thank yous for the opportunity to present this quarterly update. And I'm here for any questions you may have.
All right, colleagues, does anybody have questions? All right, well, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we will see you next quarter.
Thank you.
All right. We ready for the next presentation?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Norman, you with us?
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Ide and members of the Finance Executive Committee. This is Jeffrey Norman, Commissioner of the Department of Human Resources. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to bring the committee up to date on the continuing efforts of the Department of Human Resources as we move toward reopening City of Atlanta facilities. If we can go to slide 3. Today, I will specifically provide updates on the facility and operations planning as part of phase 4 of the city's 5-phase reopening plan, departmental highlights, and the quarterly headcount statistics. We can go to the next slide. As you're aware, since March of 2020, the City of Atlanta has continued to provide service delivery of mission-critical services to the public through the continued dedication of our mission-critical workforce, including sworn public safety personnel and civilians performing critical watershed, aviation, solid waste, transportation, inspection, parks and recreation, and other frontline functions. Additionally, the city successfully shifted members of our non-mission critical workforce to a mandatory telework deployment program to facilitate continuity of services for our remaining functions. On June 9th, the city entered phase 4 of the city's 5-phase reopening plan, and as part of the ATL Safe Work Initiative, have prepared for the reentry of employees and members of the public to return to city facilities. We can go to the next slide. On Tuesday, July 6th of 2021, all non-mission critical employees returned to in-person duty assignments at their assigned city facilities or received approval to participate in the optional telework program as a result of the end of the mandatory telework deployment program. As part of this process, supervisors and managers have thoughtfully evaluated the suitability of positions for teleworking and whether individually it is a viable alternative for both the employee and the department's service delivery needs. It is important to note that telework is a privilege and not a right and must be agreed upon by the employee, supervisor, and commissioner. Accordingly, all telework agreements have been signed by all parties prior to employees being allowed to telework full-time or in a hybrid capacity. We continue to work with public health experts to evaluate the timeline for reopening city facilities to the general public, but currently we anticipate that all city facilities will reopen to the public on Monday, August the 9th of 2021. We can go to the next slide. And so we have talked to the committee about this previously, but just wanted to reiterate, as part of the reopening planning, we obviously put in place a new telework policy and also provided employees with a new telework authorization agreement for their participation in the optional telework program. We can go to the next slide. So also wanted to touch a little bit about safety as we re-enter city facilities to ensure that we have confidence not only amongst our employee base, but those members of the public who will ultimately be returning and visiting city facilities as well. As part of those efforts, the Department of Enterprise Asset Management has been continuously working to ensure that they have put in place appropriate equipment to support mitigation. Part of that includes the introduction of a new clean desk policy will continue in place into further notice in all city facilities. We can go to the next slide. In anticipation of the anxiety associated with returning to the workplace, just wanted to bring to your attention, EAP has expanded its summer hours to offer direct accessibility to the employees on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. However, as always, EAP continues to maintain on-call staff on a 24/7 basis and continues to operate its crisis intervention line after hours and on weekends to ensure availability at all times. We can go to the next slide. Next, I wanted to take a few minutes this morning to update you on the activation of the city's Oracle Learning Management System, or as we simply refer to it as the Oracle Learn module. We can go to the next slide. As we continue to integrate and leverage technological tools to enhance employee service delivery, Oracle Learn will create an opportunity to deliver, administer, document, and track the internal online training opportunities afforded our collective workforce. During the mandatory telework deployment, EHR has already leveraged online platforms such as Zoom and Microsoft Teams to deliver virtual instructor-led training to support continued learning opportunities. And for those individuals within the city who have joined more recently, they have had the opportunity to experience the delivery of the new employee orientation through a self-paced online module. As we shift to Oracle Learn, there are certain key features and benefits that will be immediately recognized. We will now have the ability to create and modify course offerings to meet targeted training. As you're all aware, there are mandated training obligations for all city employees, such as sexual harassment and active shooter training, that we will place a significant emphasis on in the first and second quarters of this year as we roll out the LMS system. We can go to the next slide. Ultimately, this tool will not only enable the city to reach a broader scope of our training audience more effectively and efficiently, but it will also reduce the time-consuming bureaucracy often associated with coordinating training by empowering both the employee and the manager to utilize the self-service capabilities of the Learn module to self-enroll and withdraw from classes, attend training classes, allow individuals to view their training transcripts, and to also view upcoming and overdue training classes. We can go to the next slide. So DHR is definitely excited about the learning module, and we do anticipate that that will be beneficial to the workforce. We also wanted to bring to your attention that the Department of Human Resources has had an opportunity to update our homepage to reflect easier access to high priority jobs and DHR services. And so you will see, for example, that we now have direct links for police department job opportunities, fire and rescue, and obviously want to make sure that we continue to target hiring opportunities within the 911 division as well as within our public works division as well, with specific emphasis on the environmental service workers. We can go to the next slide. As we also continue to ensure that we have appropriate resources for our operating departments, our talent acquisition team, and our HRBP representatives have continued during the pandemic to participate in numerous job fairs to ensure that we can get that direct contact with individuals seeking employment here at the city. And so you can see a couple of those examples here, and we are currently working as well based on requests we received during the CUC meeting to schedule an upcoming job fair that will be dedicated primarily to the recruitment for folks for DPW as well. We can go to the next slide. Also wanted to bring to your attention, lastly, that our HRIS division has been able to complete the data entry for all of the transactions associated with the FY22 personnel paper. And as provided for in the paper, ATD and AFRD will both be receiving their scheduled salary increases on this Friday on their July 16th paycheck. We can go to the next slide. And so, as normal, as provided, and we go to slide 16, just wanted to provide the current head count. The current head count is 8,379, and that is broken down on the next page, on slide 17, where you can see the distribution amongst the departments. And so that will kind of give you insight into the current head count and the availability within those respective divisions. That concludes my presentation, and I remain available for any questions from the committee.
Colleagues, does anybody have any questions for HR?
I do, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
This is Councilmember Shepherd. So yesterday in our utility committee, there was a huge amount of discussion on from the Department of Public Works and the fact that we're so behind in that department. And one of the things the commissioner talked about was the fact that they're short 70 people in the Department of Public Works, and that 40 of those people are actually online workers who actually pick up the trash and do everything that's necessary. And I will tell you, I don't know if you listened yesterday, but I have an employee who lives in my district who told me that the problem we're having is the fact that they're saying that they're trying to hire people. He told me that he sent people over, but the HR department didn't respond until weeks later, and they'd already got another job. And I've heard that from some other people also, that in that department, the Department of Public Works, is that there's something wrong internally in terms of the HR department and hiring. Can you give me any information on that, Mr. Norman, as to what's happening in terms of the Department of Public Works, and how does that work in terms of the HR process Do you all hire them, or do they have their own department people who actually hire it? What is the staff in terms of that area?
Thank you, Councilwoman Shepherd. And so, the hiring process is obviously a coordinated effort between the two departments. And so when the Department of Public Works, like other departments within the city, seeks to hire individuals, they submit what is called a request to fill. That document is vetted by the Department of Finance to ensure that they have budget availability. That process normally takes maybe two days. That process would normally start on a Wednesday, will cycle through to the next Monday, where that would then be sent through the Vacancy Review Board for approval, at which point those positions would be posted. Then once those are posted and we receive actual applications where those individuals are identified through a job fair, then obviously the Department of Human Resources works with the Department of Public Works, who is responsible for ultimately making a determination of those employees that they do or have identified for actual hire. And once those individuals are identified for hire, then the Department of Human Resources will then facilitate an actual offer to those employees and then go through the onboarding process. And for some of those positions that you're talking about, then, there's the requirement that those are safety sensitive positions. So they would go through the physical requirement and the drug testing requirement and then be onboarded into the Department of Public Works. And so it is a coordinated effort between the two departments. Obviously, the department itself makes a decision about those individuals that are extended offers. But we do facilitate the administrative portion as far as making sure that we assist them with getting those candidates and then making sure that they're appropriately onboarded. What I will share with you is that, there are several, issues that have been identified that I know that DPW is working through relative to, how absences and things like that are playing into, the availability of service delivery. As you're aware, as part of the initial part of the pandemic, the city did, in addition to the hazard pay, provide hazard pay compensatory time to mission critical employees. And so it is also my understanding that because there was an opportunity to accrue, a significant amount of that hazard pay compensatory time, obviously as time has progressed, individuals are taking advantage of that. And so, there have, been issues there with sustaining, daily staffing, levels. We continue to, as we get requests to onboard those individuals in a timely fashion. I'll also share with you that, while we do, recognize those challenges, we continue to, provide additional resources to support the Department of Public Works, and actually in the process of as well of bringing some new staff in to DHR to focus primarily on DPW to make sure that we have the right expertise to really get them to a point where they do have that continuous support mechanism.
That was a lot that you just said. Let me just kind of go through some of it. My main question is, for you as the over HR look at that department, is that department short in terms of HR people? Because yesterday Mr. Wiggins was saying that it should take an average of 10 days to hire people. but apparently that's not happening in 10 days. Number two, I asked him yesterday, how are you all hiring people? So you being on the HR department, number one is I need to ask, are you all monitoring their process over there? And if they have a shortage of people in the HR department, I think I'm hearing you saying is you assign people to the HR department to be able to actually do the hiring. Is that correct?
We do have dedicated personnel who are assigned to support the Department of Public Works, and part of that assignment does in fact include the recruitment and the onboarding of applicants for employment within the Department of Public Works.
So is there a shortage in that department at this point in terms of the hiring process?
No, we currently do have adequate personnel. What I will say is that, number one, relative to the benchmark for onboarding, that is established at a 32-day period. That is the normal turnaround from the point that, you advertise a position to, you have actually identified an individual and gotten them on. And so that average nationwide, the benchmark for that is 32 days. Obviously, in a lot of cases, we are able to accelerate that number. But one of the things we do continue to stress to departments as well is that they have to ensure that they are following the appropriate protocol. So, for example, if we have situations where individuals are identified outside of the process, there's no application in the system, they have not responded relative to ensuring that they have been scheduled to go through drug testing and, for the physical requirement, then obviously, that can add time to the time it is required because you then have to backtrack to make sure that they're checking out and going through those protocols. But we do continue to work with the hiring managers within all departments to ensure that if we want to maintain that expedited onboarding, that we ensure that they are following the appropriate protocols so we don't have additional time where we have to backtrack to get people introduced into the Oracle system.
So, I don't know if, again, as you heard, right now, our public works department across the city, our trash is not being picked up. We're short 40 people. Actually, he said 40 on the streets and 70 and 30 administratively. And I know as an HR person, I think that that's something that should be really important to you as a director to be looking at in terms of the fact that we're having problems, and I'm getting huge amount of complaints from my citizens every day. I just got emails this morning on trash that wasn't picked up. I'm just telling you, it's a major problem, and I'm just still trying to understand if we have this shortage. I also heard what's happened with this shortage, and how are you all working to deal with that? Then you also talked about absence. You talked about the fact that a lot of people are absent. Are they absent because they're sick? Are you saying they're absent? These are people who are absent because they're not calling in or they're not coming in. What's going on with that? What does that mean when you say the absence problem?
And so I'll obviously defer to, Public Works, but based on the information I have received, there is a high frequency of employees who are calling in and taking sick days. And so obviously that when you do have that as a recurrent situation from a staffing perspective, that obviously puts a burden, on the service delivery. And so my understanding is that, on any given day that has, yielded a significant portion, of their workforce, which is why it has been challenging, I think, to maintain the level of operational service delivery they're looking for. What I will share is that, I do agree that, from a hiring perspective, as I noted earlier, we have successfully, been part of hiring fairs where we have identified individuals and onboarded those individuals. So you have several things at play. You have a level of attrition, meaning you do have folks who are rolling off, and leaving the city. That is one portion. You have the absence portion, which plays a part. And then obviously, identifying those individuals to come in and, who are going to be able to be retained. Those efforts, what I'll share is that those folks who have been identified, we continue to onboard those folks in an expedited fashion. And as I indicated earlier, we were at a job fair last week. We're planning a job fair for next week. And so we continue to identify and bring individuals in. And so, we do have the appropriate level of staffing to be able to make that happen within our normal benchmark for bringing folks on board.
Well, I'm just going to say, Mr. Norman, that department is in need of a lot of help on so many levels. And if we're short 40 people, and I heard you say about the attrition, but I think we need to really do a whole assessment of what's going on there because we're getting a huge amount of complaints across the city. So it's not just about the HR department and it's out there, but I'm telling you that trash is not being picked up. And I'm saying to you as the director of the HR department, you all need to go in and try to help figure out how to fix this. This is really bad. This is bad. So I'm just going to challenge you. Y'all got to do something.
No, and I don't want to leave you with the impression. We actually are already working in coordination with some, in partnership with some external agencies who have identified some readily available pools that we think we can, supplement our workforce with. So that's something where we are currently looking to utilize that partnership also to quickly get some folks in. So that's something we've been working with the folks within the mayor's office to facilitate those partnerships. So we do think we have a good pipeline to get in some immediate folks who will be suitable for that level of work. So that is something that's in process, and we think we'll be able to leverage the job fair that we are planning for next week to also have those agencies to utilize that as a pipeline to send those individuals through as well.
Okay. In terms of best practices, when we pay our sanitation workers, is that an average? Are we the norm across the country, or are we paying them less than we pay other parts of the country?
So what we've been,
if we're having an attrition problem, is it based on pay? What is it based on that we can't keep people? And how do we affect that?
Yeah, and so as far as competitive pay, the city is very competitive, so it's not really a pay issue. I think that, of course, during the pandemic, there have been different reasons. Even as we kind of look at the more professional workforce, you still have a level of attrition for different reasons. But as we do go through that exit interview process, after a period of time, there's some folks who just make the decision that's not the type of continued work that they want to do. And so there has always been that segmentation within that part of the labor force, which is why, to your point, we're also looking at various other tools that we can utilize from a retention standpoint to ensure that we incentivize folks to stay with the city. So those are ongoing discussions that we're having so that we can make sure that in addition to pay, that we are providing other opportunities and incentives that kind of meet the needs of folks So that's something we're currently evaluating as well to ensure that, we're able to keep folks once we do get them on board. And it is not that tends to be, over a period of time where, for example, when we talk about attrition, you just have some folks who, they decide it's not what they want to do and they just never return to work.
I'm going to ask you one other thing about this, and then I got another question for you. I was talking to one of these employees who live in my district. They were talking about, and I don't want to get this mixed up with COVID-19, but hazard pay. So we know that we've cut off hazard pay for employees in the sense, any employees because of COVID-19 and the fact that we're starting back to work and people can take a shot and all of that, and I get that. But this particular worker said that in some cities, even in Metro Atlanta, that they get hazard pay on a regular basis because of the type of job they do. That their job is a job that is pretty, egregious in terms of what they're exposed to. And because of the type of job it is, that they get hazard pay on a regular basis, and it's a part of their work. Is that something that we do or even contemplate looking at as the city of Atlanta?
We do have that at the city of Atlanta. And so there are certain jobs based on the level of exposure to danger. So, for example, there are individuals, for example, who do a lot of the sewer work and work with storm water, as well as folks in other departments where there is an analysis done on the front end. And so a component of their pay is already inclusive of a hazard pay payment, which is separate and distinct from what we identified as hazard pay as part of the potential exposure to COVID-19. So we already do have that at the city where those evaluations are done as they are in most industries for specific position and classes. So we do do that here already at the city.
But not the public works department, the sanitation workers who are working out in the field now, who are on the trucks. In some cities, they're saying that they also get hazard pay, but you're saying that that's not a category that we have in the city of Atlanta?
That is not currently a separate addendum to those individuals' pay class, no.
I would be interested in seeing if you all want to contemplate that. I mean, what we're trying to do is figure out, this department has always had a problem with attrition and keeping folks in all of this. I think we just need to look at some ways that we can really enhance. This job is a pretty rough job for folks, and I can see why some people would not want to stay on it. But we've got to do other things to give people incentives that they want to stay. I don't know if there's an increase in salary, if not an increase in salary, hazard pay, or something that people would just not consistently want to leave the job because we continue to have a problem with that. And I want to ask, other cities having the same problem? Is that typical across the industry that people just continuously leave a certain department? So how do other cities get by with that? So I'm just telling you, Mr. Norman, that we need to be looking at this because it's time for us to comprehensively look at that public works department and see what we can do to fix it, because we're continuously having problems with keeping people in that department and a lot of other issues. And we just need to support them and look at everything realistically in terms of how we can really change some of the things that are happening over there. So I'm asking for you to consider all of these things that we're talking about and look at it holistically. So okay. Thank you.
No, I think that's fair. And as I indicated, those discussions are currently ongoing. I know I'll be setting some time aside also to sit down with Commissioner Wiggins to talk about some of those initiatives as well. And so we will be able to report back to you on some of the approaches to closing that gap to make sure that we really understand all of those touch points. And while it may not be, for example, the inclusion of the hazard pay, I do agree, once again, as I indicated earlier, there are current incentives that we're looking at that hopefully can help to curb that from a retention standpoint.
Okay. So I'm going to go on to one last thing, and I'm going to finish, Madam Chair. You talked about us going back to work and COVID-19 and the whole regulations y'all put in place in terms of employees coming back to work. And so they're pretty much what we're saying, and correct me because I just want to make sure, that we're saying that at this point, if you are an employee, you can get the COVID-19 shot or vaccination shot, or you can get the shot. So at this point, if you choose not to get the shot, it's left up to the discrepancy of the supervisor in terms of what happens in terms of that?
So just to be clear, so the return to in-person duty, there is no requirement that at this point that city employees be vaccinated. That is a personal decision. We obviously encourage employees to take advantage of becoming vaccinated, and we continue to offer opportunities to help facilitate that with the workforce. But obviously that is a personal decision, but that does not serve as a barrier. As part of the re-entry, obviously there's an expectation everyone will continue to be screened. We will keep the mask policy in place at current, but that does not impact anyone's duty assignment at this point within the workforce.
So in terms of workforce also, it's up to each supervisor in terms of their workforce, in terms of how they handle the employees, in terms of working either at the office or at home. That's left up to the supervisors. Is that correct?
So yes, departments have done an evaluation and they have looked at that from a functional perspective, meaning that departments have gone through and made a determination as we shift toward phase 4 and ultimately phase 5. So all departments have instituted a plan for phase 4 and phase 5 where they have identified from a functional standpoint, what members and functions under their province need to report for an in-duty assignment. And that may look different for phase 4 as it does for phase 5 when the building opens. Because obviously once we get to phase 5, to make sure that we do provide appropriate service delivery, that does require that we have in-person duty assignments to meet the needs of the public. And so you will see that as part of what is now the optional telework program, departments have gone through and determined functionally how it is best for their employees to work and to meet their service obligations. And that is how they make a determination as to who is eligible to participate in the optional telework program. And it could be that that looks different, meaning you may have some folks who are able to complete their duty assignment in a 100% telework capacity. You have others who may be able to accomplish that in a hybrid capacity. And so, for example, currently in City Hall, as part of phase 4, you will see a significant number of folks who are working 2 to 3 days in person, and they are completing other assignments on those other 2 days in a telework capacity. And you will have folks, who find that their function requires them to be in the building at this point to successfully meet those functional obligations. So it will, the optional telework program will present itself functionally in that way. And the folks who ultimately are in the best position to make those determinations are the commissioners who are responsible for providing service delivery in those respective areas.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd. I believe that Mr. Shook had a question, and then Mr. Dickens.
Yeah, okay, thank
And
you.
then
So
Archibald.
first of all,
Okay, and then Archibald.
Mr. Shepard's line of questioning, mine's somewhat related. There's been a kind of a parade of reasons why the solid waste workforce is under what it needs to be. But let's go back to COVID, when that was the reason. Do we now know, does HR now know why COVID was hit so much harder than any other city cohort?
I didn't hear the last part of your question.
Do we now know why solid waste apparently was hit so much harder by COVID than any other workforce cohort?
And so from my understanding, Councilmember Shook, from the information that has been shared with me, I think a lot of that had to do with lifestyle choices amongst that populace, which is why you didn't necessarily have, it wasn't that folks were necessarily being exposed to, COVID within the workplace, but there were some lifestyle habits that were also contributing to that. But as with all COVID exposure, that it is often hard to, specifically identify. And then once you have an individual who then brings that into a larger environment, that exposure increases. But that's my general understanding as to why we did kind of see an elevated exposure within that group of our workforce.
All right. Well, thank you. Last question. We're concluding one of the great kind of workforce productivity experiments in American history. An inordinate amount of people working from home. Is HR or anyone else tracking and measuring free and existing productivity?
That is, we are coordinating with departments, and departments are, we're working cooperatively at that. Obviously, there was, as part of the mandatory telework deployment, obviously that was a different scale than what we're looking at as part of the optional telework program. But through both of those sequences, there obviously should be specific metrics from a performance standpoint that all departments have implemented at the supervisory level to ensure that they can appropriately track performance and those daily metrics that are required as part of that service delivery. So that is something we're engaged with departments on.
Okay. So the city, 55 Trinity is going to return back to normal. Define that as you will shortly. And then if I ask for a report on sort of the assessment of how the last year and a half or 2 years worked out, but what would I receive?
And so, obviously we can have a discussion relative to that, but there are performance metrics within each operating department that I do believe we can coordinate to make sure that you kind of have insight as to what those, what the performance levels looked within the respective departments during that respective time period.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dickens, and then Councilman Archibald.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Norman. I really appreciated all of the questions that came from Councilmember Shepard. I shared quite a few of those, and I'm glad she really highlighted it and stayed on it. I know this meeting is moving along. We're probably going to have to spend some time over the break really diving into this more because across the city, folks are not happy about the level of service, us missing our service level agreement that the taxpayers pay for, particularly in DPW. So I wanted to just go back and make sure I got a few quick numbers on vacancies, and then I had some questions related to some solutions. So DPW, DWM, and DPR, I wanted to get the vacancy numbers there. If you have them handy, take them now. If not, have somebody look them up, and then I'll keep going down the other set of questions. Do you have them right away?
I do not have those, and I just want to be clear. So when you're speaking of the vacancy numbers, are you talking about, I'm assuming that you're talking about the availability of funded positions within those respective departments?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we can call those in coordination with the department, because as I think I've previously articulated to the committee, the way that the city budgets, obviously there are approved and authorized positions within departments that the Department of Finance does not necessarily fund as part of the adoption of the budget. Meaning, for example, when there's a snapshot taken within FY21, when in a lot of instances there may be vacancies that are not funded, but there's still the discretion within the department to obviously apply the dollars where they make the most sense. So that I can clearly tell you the distinction between the authorized head count in department and where we currently sit from total head count. And that's part of why, as part of the vacancy review board, the focus does remain on those dollars and how to best apply those as folks move forward filling those respective positions.
Thanks for that. So when are you going to give me a number that I can look at? Can you do that now? What's the quickest? You gave me an academic exercise, which I'm going to make sure I stay qualified on. But as of this conversation, I want to know how many people are we short to do what we need to do at DPW? That they're saying if you go into a job fair, you got a goal. What's your goal at the end of this job fair? Is it you're trying to get 200 people? You're trying to get 175 people? Just in simplest terms.
Yeah, so in simple terms, for example, I know the last discussion I had regarding DPW, the discussion was about prioritizing 30 hires to get on the back of trucks to ensure that we have the appropriate, operational efficiency. And so, for example, when we stand up this job fair next week, the goal would be to identify, that number of folks so that we can get those folks on board and on the back of the truck.
Okay. And I'm going to have a related question to that 30 for DPW. Are we having similar challenges at Watershed Management and Parks and Rec in terms of vacancies?
So I have not heard those same concerns from Watershed or from the Parks and Rec Department. And so obviously there are vacancies, but I haven't heard those same concerns relative to those two organizations.
Okay. Are we requiring a diploma or GED for these 30 hires to be on the back of a truck?
And so based on my conversation with Commissioner Wiggins, that is not a requirement for those individuals to serve in that capacity as an environmental service worker.
Okay. Has that always been the case, or is this a new? It's my understanding that in times past we were requiring that, and now with us needing, we're in a state of great need. We're relaxing that policy. Is that something that's going to be new for this cycle?
That's a new determination. That is something that had been in place previously within the city. Obviously, that's something that a discussion that we had in coordination with DPW, and we're obviously making sure that we do not have artificial barriers in place that disincentivize us having the availability to get the bodies we need to perform the services.
Correct. And so with the need for 30 environmental service workers, this job fair, are we doing, I know we still have drug testing and other things, but are we doing on-site hiring? Like 30 people sound like you could process them all at once with a hyper focus. I would see this as 30 days is excessive.
No, I don't anticipate that. Once again, we would be looking at that standard benchmark. We are looking at making sure that we can leverage the ability, because what we do know, for example, when we talk about the application process, as you may be aware, in a lot of situations when we do these job fairs, folks may pre-register, have already tendered their application through the electronic system. We do, for example, anticipate with this focused fair that we would need to have folks on site who will be able to get folks and make sure they help them so we can get that information into the system on site. And then, we're in the process of, determining what resources we can also have on site to expedite the other requirements. And so we're in that planning phase at this current point, but we are looking, as we always do, to ensure that we minimize those barriers and those pressure points so we can get as much of it done as we kind of interact with folks as part of that fair. So that is the expectation, that we're not really looking at what you would be looking at with a standard hire and going through that full process.
So that sounds like you want to do it and you're thinking about doing it. You haven't operationalized it yet. And when is the fair again? And where is it going to be held?
We're targeting all those details as of now, so we're currently working on that. Obviously, I can share the details once we finalize those plans.
Okay, so we don't have a job fair date and flyer and all that kind of stuff yet. We don't know where it is or what.
Well, we do have a potential location, but once again, we have to iron down all those details before we advertise the job fair.
Okay, all right. So, as you can tell, the council, and I would imagine that everybody around you is letting you know, just like we let Commissioner Wiggins know. I've talked to him in offline conversations about these environmental service workers on the trucks, but also, folks that are landscape crews. We have tremendous overgrowth in our roadways. Because of the rain season and because of some other things, we have a lot of overgrowth, and then litter is everywhere. And so these things just mean that while we're hiring these 30, I'm thinking that you were going to set the goal higher than 30. So I thought we were going to be looking at, a major, huge, all over TV, all over radio, all throughout all of the, anybody that in the metro area would hear how Atlanta is committed to right now hiring 100-some people with or without a GED. Our minimum wage is $15 an hour, hiring on site, start working in 2 weeks. This is what competitive firms do. This is what occurred the other week at the airport. This is what occurred with the labor unions just yesterday. So I guess I'm asking, similarly to the other colleagues of mine, that your posture about this be almost uber excessively intentional to the point to where not a single person in the metro would not know that Atlanta is looking for folks to go on the back of a truck to make sure that we get this job done. The ifs and the hopes that you were just talking about are lacking the specificity that I think you would need to have to pull that off in a week.
And just to be clear, Councilmember Dickens, this isn't the first. I mean, we actually have had some of those heavily communicated types of events in the past. When I mentioned that, we're looking to stand up this job fair, like I said, we have several pipelines that we have been, working on in coordination with other groups. When I specifically talk about the job fair we're looking to stand up next week, obviously we had a request from Councilmember Boone to work with DHR where she wanted to sponsor a job fair, and she has, talked a little bit about, we've had discussions because we just had this discussion with Councilmember Boone yesterday. Obviously, we're committed to standing that up pretty quickly. And so we've had discussions, for example, pretty quickly about where and how we can facilitate that. But really only being, under 24 hours in starting that discussion, we have to close the loop on a lot of those details before, we push that out publicly. And so that is what I'm specifically talking about when I'm speaking about this other job fair. When I spoke earlier about, the pipelines with some of the partner agencies who have existing labor pools, those are things where, with or without a job fair, there are real opportunities there to leverage some of those existing pools. And so those are the discussions we're having. So we do have several coordinated things going on. I do agree that we have to be very intentional about that. But I just want to be clear that, yes, this is not that we're not looking to have all of those questions answered, but this specific job fair I'm referencing for next week is the one that was requested on yesterday, and we're less than 24 hours from that request. We still are working toward these other initiatives that are job fair and non-job fair related.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Archibald.
For this benefit to going last, most of the concerns that I had has already been asked, but one observation. You mentioned the process, onboarding being the last thing. There's the finance department verifying funds, and then there's some kind of vacancy committee. It would seem to me that given the gravity of the situation and the knowledge that we do have these vacancies, there's some steps that could be eliminated. What thoughts have you given to fast tracking this onboarding process?
So we actually, and I was describing the overall, the standard process, just so you do know, the Chief Operating Officer has already given pre-authorization for those targeted groups that we are looking to onboard. So there is no hurdle there for that process as it relates to Vacancy Review Board, because the Chief Operating Officer has already, looked into the availability of funds and kind of given those pre-authorizations. And so we have, made and communicated that to the department. So we have a very simplified process, for example, where we are looking for those immediate hiring opportunities. And so that is not slowing down any part of the onboarding process at this point. We're in definite agreement with that, and the Chief Operating Officer has already provided that pre-authorization.
Okay, well, that is good to hear. At our presentation at City Utilities, there were, I think, vacancy or a need to hire a total of 103 people. I think we've got some of that as administrative and the rest as folks who would be actually outside doing the work on the backs of trucks or on the truck. Is there a process for continuously looking and having a pool of candidates continuously in the pipeline, so to speak?
It is, and that's why we're not only looking at the traditional, pool of folks. That's why we're looking to partner with some of these labor organizations who do have folks there trying to find employment who seem to fit that applicant model. And so at this point, we do have high hopes that we'll be able to transition a lot of those folks directly into these job opportunities as we continue to pull from the traditional, more traditional pools as well. So we are looking at it from several different vantage points in coordination with DPW.
Okay, and then as a final observation, I am in full agreement with Ms. Shepherd in that we should look at the possibility and the rationale to support having hazard pay for at least maybe some staff, because the commissioner yesterday indicated that snake bites was one of the reasons why they had absences. And so I don't know about everybody else, but when I hear the word snake, I do hear hazard. And so I don't know what our basis or protocols are for establishing what is in fact or isn't hazardous, but I think this would be something worthy of a reevaluation at this point. So just a comment, and I don't know if you would I think you should take that under advisement and let us know your recommendations, if any, to alter and to maybe add this as a job classification entitled to that hazard pay.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely take that under advisement, and I agree that we'll go back and we'll do that analysis of the existing position and have those discussions with leadership in DPW. And we'll, as a result of that, once we're able to evaluate that, we'll look at the wisdom as to, once again, whether that looks like hazard pay or other incentives, how to make sure that we have that balanced appropriately, so that job classification is appropriately compensated and incentivized.
Great. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Archibald. Well, thank you, Commissioner. I think you've... Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, Commissioner Norman, I just sent you a news article that came up on 11 Alive yesterday, and it really was. It was talking about the headlines for it is trash pickup delayed in the Metro Atlanta neighborhood, and it talks about the complaints. I mean, this is all in the news now about how horrible our trash complaints are. We got to do something to fix it. I just sent you that news article. The article in Channel 11, an article following it. Please work with us on this, and I ask for your support. They need help in the Department of Public Works, but I think some of it acts on you as an HR person also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Shepherd. Yeah, and I'm just going to echo what my colleagues are saying. I mean, all of us, our offices are being inundated with people who, pay a solid waste fee every year and aren't getting the services that they should be getting. So every possible thing that we can do to get that department staffed up is really critical, because this is really one of those frontline experiences that all of the residents of Atlanta have with our city government, and it's not a satisfactory one at this point in time. Please let us know when the job fair is scheduled, and I think this is a think outside the box opportunity to figure out how we get people hired and onboarded quickly. All right. Well, thank you for your presentation today. We will definitely see you next quarter, and I imagine we'll hear from you before then as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Colleagues, just so you know, my computer has given out, and I'm not on Elms. So if you had your hand raised on there, I apologize, but I didn't see that. I'm trying to see if I can get my computer fixed again. We are now at the consent agenda, section H, ordinances for first read. And Ms. Kempson-Wright, if you wouldn't mind reading those in, I would appreciate it.
Item number 1 is 21-00478, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year water and wastewater 2022 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in an amount not to exceed $125 million and 0 cents for the authorization of the city's Series 2021 commercial paper program with respect to the issuance of its water and wastewater revenue commercial paper note Series 2021. Item number 2 is 21-00479, an ordinance to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to pay outstanding invoices for a cooperative purchasing agreement, listed consultant for public safety CAD systems with Mission Critical Partners, LLC, on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management and Atlanta Police Department, in an amount not to exceed $80,000 and 0 cents in accordance with Section 21163, subsection C, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. All contracted work to be charged and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed. Item number 3 is 21-00480, an ordinance authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to pay outstanding invoices for SB 8744A, annual contract for major mechanical repairs and services with Western Summit Constructors Incorporated on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for services rendered during the term of the agreement in an amount not to exceed $2,739,000 and 0 cents. Item number 4 is 21-00481, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee to enter into a cooperative purchasing agreement with Gartner Technology Research Advisory Services on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management, utilizing State of Minnesota NASPO Master Client Agreement Number listed for a term of 2 years, retroactively effective beginning July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023, with a one-year renewal term option in an amount not to exceed $651,836.00 in accordance with Section 21163, subsection C of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. Services for year 2 of the agreement are subject to and expressly contingent upon the adoption and approval of the fiscal year 2023 budget. All contracted work to be charged and paid from fund numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you very much. So those are all first reads that will come back to us in August. Takes us down to our regular agenda, Section I, our ordinances for second read. Item number 5 is 21-00441, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend Ordinance 20-0-1510, authorizing the carryover of up to 10 days of excess annual leave accumulation for city employees and the carryover of up to 20 days of excess annual leave accumulation for public safety, police, fire, and corrections, Department of Public Works, and Department of Watershed Management through and including December 31st, 2021, and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote.
Vote is open.
Dickens is a yay.
Ms. Kempson-Wright, do you mind calling the vote out? Because I'm still struggling with my computer and I can't see the vote count.
Yes, Madam Chair. Could everyone please vote? Councilmember Westmoreland? One second. Madam Chair, we have 4 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
All right, thank you. Item number 6 is 21-00442, an ordinance of Finance Executive Committee to amend Ordinance 20-0-1759 to authorize the carryover of up to 20 days of excess annual leave accumulation through and including June 30th, 2022 for all city employees and for other purposes. Commissioner Norman, will you just clarify this? The item number 5 was for 2019 leave, and item number 6 is for 2020 leave. Do we still have Mr. Norman with us?
One moment, Madam Chair, we're checking. Okay. Yes, he's still on the line.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I didn't hear you before. Can you just clarify? I believe that these two are just very similar. I believe that item 5 was for the 2019 year and item 6 is for the 2020 year. Is that right?
That's correct. And so, as the council aware, both of these pieces of legislation are follow-ups to previous authorizations to extend the leave. And so the first, we have one that encompasses leave that was accrued as part of the 2019 calendar year, and the second represents leave that was accrued as part of the 2020 calendar year. And so we just wanted to make sure, as you know, because we have been in the telework deployment, and obviously with mission critical employees continuing to be engaged in providing those mission critical services, we did not want to penalize and have folks lose either of those accrued balances. And so that's why you will see the 2019 that most folks did not have an opportunity to tap into during the course of 2020. And the same is true for 2020 as it relates to 2021. But that is because there were previous pieces of legislation that authorized those extensions. We just wanted to ensure that we had the appropriate legislation in place to continue the extension for 2019 to the end of this year, and then for the 2020 time through the end of this fiscal year for FY22.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I understand how that applies to mission critical people. It doesn't necessarily, to me, make sense that it applies to everybody in the city, but that is just my opinion. All right, so we were on item 6. I'll make a motion to approve, even though I'm not sure I agree with the policy. Second. All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dickens is a yay.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Thank you. Item number 7, we're going to have a substitute on. It is 21-0443, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor who designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to waive the competitive source selection requirements contained in Article 10 of the Procurement Code to allow the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs to enter into agreements with specifically curated performers, artists, and sponsors for the 2021 Elevate Public Art Festival in Atlanta, and directing that all festival revenues and expenses be deposited and expended from the accounts listed below and for other purposes. I believe we have Mr. Witherspoon with us. Let me first make a motion to bring forward the substitute.
Second.
All right, let's vote on that.
The vote is open.
Dickens, yes.
And for the public please listening, the substitute updates some terminology in the funding accounts and updates the account strings.
6 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you.
Okay. Mr. Witherspoon, if you are with us, is this event on track and permitted under the city's current reopening plan, or do we think this is going to go forward?
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Witherspoon, representing the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs. The schedule for the Elevate event is in September and October, and this year's theme is reopening, reigniting, and reconnecting. And we want to highlight events that other cultural institutions and hospitality businesses are already planning in those communities during the festival, and then just supplement those events that are already happening independently of the city and with public art and additional cultural events. And to answer your question, we will follow all the guidelines recommended by government and city government to make sure that our event sizes will be minimal, and we'll follow whatever government guidelines are currently recommended to protect our constituents.
Okay, but there's a way to do it that we're not going to be expending money and then canceling the event. You're planning on sort of making it work within whatever.
We're gonna study and plan this out safely and accordingly, and we're not going to make commitments that we cannot carry through safely.
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Odd, I had a question.
Oh, yes, Ms. Shepherd.
So I know, and I was looking when I read the legislation, I saw that it's going, typically Elevate goes through 1 week, but in this particular case, you're going to have it for several weeks. Is that what you're saying, Robert?
This year's event is going to be 8 weeks, and so we're going to visit 8 different sections of town, different neighborhoods, and on each weekend we are going to highlight those events that are already previously planned around reopening. An example would be a theater event or opening of something special at a restaurant or local business that we can highlight, and then supplement that with other events that we plan.
Okay.
And so
go ahead.
We're really going to cover the whole city with different, as far as the geographical area that we're trying to activate, and we'd be in a different part of town every weekend, if you will. So the old model is not going to be used this year.
Or so have you mapped out where you're going already?
We have a outline of the mapped out area, and it's pretty broad. So, for example, Southwest Atlanta, Southeast Atlanta, the West Side, the East Side, Midtown, and Buckhead, and Downtown. So those are our activation areas, but I think we pretty much have options to, it's pretty much open consideration right now, because within those areas it encompasses the entire city.
Okay, thank you. Just send us more information when you get it. And what's the total budget for this? What's the budget for this one? Or across the city?
Our target is $100,000, and that's our model that we've used since the beginning of Elevate, more or less.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, and I still am not seeing e-boardroom, so colleagues, if you have a question, just let me know, because I apologize if I'm missing people raising their hand online.
Second.
Okay, so let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dickens, Jay.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute.
All right, our next item is item number 8. It's 210-0444. An ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing payment amount not to exceed $16,000 per year for a period of 3 years for a total amount not to exceed $48,000 from the Chastain Park Trust Fund to provide matching funds for the purpose of adding a landscape technician position to assist with the maintenance of Chastain Park and for other purposes. There is an amendment that adds an addendum, so I'll make a motion to amend.
Second.
Let's open the vote on the amendment.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Dickens, Jay.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The amendment is before you.
All right, I'll make the motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Let's open the vote on the motion to approve.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Dickens, Jay.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable as amended.
Thank you. Item number 9 is 20-0445, an ordinance of Finance Executive Committee authorizing the CFO to pay outstanding invoices for FC 9187 annual contract for green infrastructure and landscaping services with Ed Castro Landscape Inc. on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for services rendered during the term of the agreement in an amount not to exceed $150,000.00. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from the Fund Department Organization account number listed herein and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Open the vote. The vote is open.
Dickens, Jay. Dickens, Jay.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Thank you. The next one is item number 10-21-0446, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to execute special procurement agreement SPS 1210219 annual contract for on-call diving services with Salmon's Dredging Corporation on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options retroactively effective from March 14, 2021. An amount not to exceed $3 million and 0 cents, subject to and expressly contingent upon the adoption and approval of the fiscal year 2022, 2023, and 2024 budgets in accordance with Section 2-1163, subsection C of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to ratify services rendered by Salmon's Dredging Corporation from March 14, 2021 until the date special procurement agreement SPS 1210219 is executed. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from the Fund Department Organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes. And if somebody from Watershed, I don't know if we have the commissioner with us, would just tell us a little bit about what this is and why we're doing it as a special. If we have either Mr. Fletcher or the commissioner.
This is Nikita Brown, and Commissioner. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Okay, there's Fletcher. All right, you take it over.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioner, and Council members. Quentin Fletcher, Department of Watershed Management. The purpose of this legislation is to request authorization to execute special procurement agreement SP-121029 annual contract for on-call diving services with Salmon Dredging. During 2019, DOP performed market research to determine the pool of available companies in the industry that could provide the required services. Due to the specialized services, only 3 companies in the southeastern region performed the needed services. The city has advertised to award a contract for these services in the past. Due to the difficulty of the specialized scope of services, the Department of Watershed Management requested a special procurement approval from the Department of Procurement to provide on-call diving services. The city is responsible for physical inspections, evaluation, maintenance, and repair of underground linear infrastructure such as deep tunnel systems, pumping stations, shafts to remove grit and debris buildup. This request is critical to the city. We must meet the requirements of the NPDES permits issued by the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. Under these permits, the city is required to maintain critical services to meet discharge limits to protect public health and the Chattahoochee River water quality. This concludes my briefing, subject to any questions.
Thank you. That answered my questions. I will make a motion to approve.
Yeah, Chuck with a question.
All right.
Maybe I missed something. If there were 3 respondents, why is this a special?
Only one company responded to the estimate, to the request, and it was determined by DOP that this was a special procurement. And the only company that responded to our request was Salmon Dredging.
Okay, so there was one respondent. Why does that deem this as a special procurement?
Only one company responded to the solicitation for the contract.
Well, I get that. But what makes this? I won't belabor it. I'll try one more time. What makes this a special that there was only one respondent?
I don't know if we have Mr. Clark still with us or not. If procurement wants to jump in, that's fine as well.
And what's the value of the contract?
$3 million, Councilman Shook.
So if it's a special, this evades the IPRO review, is that correct?
I believe that is currently correct, Mr. Shook.
Well,
do we have Mr. Clark or maybe Ms. Watkins? Somebody who can speak to the procurement aspect of this? I think we're looking. Mr. Clark, let's see if we can get Mr. Clark off of mute.
Hello?
Yes, there you are.
Hey there, folks. Yes, taking a look at this. Give me 1 second here to pull up my notes on this one. Let's see.
Excuse me, Martin. I want to jump in real quick. This is Michael Jones, the iPro manager. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we did prepare an iPro report for this solicitation. It is with the council staff.
Okay. Do we? I think then let us look for it. Again, my e-boardroom is down, but Ms. Kempson Wright is looking for it, and if we if it is not attached, then we should amend to attach the iPro report.
Hey there, Chairperson I.
Yes.
Hey there, this is CPO Martin Clark. I was able to find the special designation memo on this one. Apparently, in the past, there were a number of attempts to procure these services that failed. They had solicited, we had solicited and attempted to award the contract in the past with difficulty actually finding folks. And due to the specialized nature of the services, there were only 3 companies apparently in the region, southeastern region, that could perform these services, with only one actually coming in and actually bidding. And because of the potential impact of delaying these efforts and meeting the city's ability to maintain these systems, it was determined that this thing could fall within the definitions of a special procurement. Again, you marry all the issues that we had trying to get interest in this thing, very limited number of entities that could perform the services, the importance of the services. The Department of Procurement allowed them to go forward with the special procurement, Councilman Shook.
Okay. I still don't understand why, with a positive bidder, this becomes a special, but I'll just vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council members, this is Michael Jones, the iPro manager. We actually sent it to the CUC committee staff. My apologies.
This is Archie Bong. I have a question. When did you send that to the CUC staff?
That was May 24th.
All right, thanks.
This is Martin Clark, CPO Martin Clark. I'm taking a look at the iPro report, and there were no findings identified that required a response from BOP.
One moment, please.
I apologize. I was on mute, just talking away. I'm going to make a motion to amend to attach the memo to the legislation. Anybody want to second that?
Second, Archibong.
Thank you. Let's open the vote on the amendment.
The vote is open. Oh, I'm sorry. One moment. The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Dick and Jay.
The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The amendment is before you.
Well, Cook abstains, but thank you.
We will update the vote.
Yep. Was that 5 yeas and 1 abstention? Or are we down to 5?
Yes, 5 yeas.
Okay.
5 yeas, 1 abstention for the amendment to be brought forward.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve as amended.
Sure, with a question.
Yes.
This will be my 3rd time I've asked. With a positive respondent, why is this a special?
As in, why didn't it just move through a competitive bidding and just have 1 respondent?
Correct.
Mr. Clark?
Sure. I can respond to that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, generally the code outlines that the city looks for at least 3 respondents on the solicitations. We could waive it, of course, if need be. But again, we actually tried to go to the street prior to this one to try to get this service. And with this single and sole respondent, again, the Department of Procurement authorized a special procurement. It wasn't a sole source because yes, only 1 company responded, but there are actually 3 within the Southeast region that could do it. So it fell outside of the sole source definition. And so this actually fell within the definitions of a special procurement.
Okay, well, I'm from around here. I've been confronted with untold number of there was only 1 bidder situations. So this is kind of a new one for me. I don't understand it. So thank you.
Thank you.
There I go again on mute. So I have a second out there. I don't know if there's anybody who wants. I have a motion out there without a second at the moment.
Second, Shepard.
If anybody.
One second.
All right. So second by Shepard. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Shook is a nay.
Dickens, yay.
The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 1 nay. This item is favorable.
Thank you. The next item is item number 11, 21-0447, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the CFO to amend the fiscal year 2022 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations bond proceeds in the aggregate principal amount of $4 million in connection with the City of Atlanta various purpose general obligation bond series 2021A and for other purposes. There is a substitute that needs to be brought forward that adds account strings and related flow of funds in section 1. So I make a motion to bring forward the substitute.
Second.
Now let's open the vote on the substitute.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Dickens is a yay.
The vote is closed. 6 0 nays, the substitute is before you.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve on substitute.
Second.
Let's open the vote.
Vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to do 12 through 22 together as they are all carry forward papers. So 12 is 21-00460, an ordinance by Councilmember Joyce M. Shepherd authorizing a donation amount not to exceed $25,000 from the District 12 carry forward account to the Atlanta Police Foundation to purchase security cameras for use within District 12 and for other purposes. Item 13 is 21-00461, an ordinance by Councilmember Joyce M. Shepherd authorizing a donation amount not to exceed $6,500 from the District 12 carry forward account to the Atlanta Police Foundation to purchase security cameras for the Pittman Park project and for other purposes. Item number 14 is 21-00463, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation not to exceed $5,000 to the Vanana Clayton Foundation from the Post 2 at Large carry forward account and for other purposes. Item number 15 is 21-00464, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation not to exceed $1,000 to the Atlanta Preservation Center from the Post 2 at Large carry forward account and for other purposes. Item number 16 is 21-00465, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation not to exceed $5,000 to the Old Fourth Ward Business Association from the Post 2 at Large carry forward account and for other purposes. Item number 17 is 21-00466, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing the transfer of $10,000 from the District 11 carry forward account to the District 11 distribution account to support back-to-school efforts and other community efforts for the public good and for other purposes. Item number 18 is 21-00467, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin R. Hillis authorizing a donation not to exceed $25,000 from the Council District 9 carry forward account to Strategic Resource Development Corp. LLC, an Atlanta housing affiliate that accepts donations on behalf of Atlanta Housing to contribute to the Bowen Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant and for other purposes. Item number 19 is 21-00468, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation not to exceed $20,000 to the Atlanta Legal Aid Society and the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation in support of anti-eviction efforts from the Post 2 at Large carry forward account and for other purposes. Item number 20 is 21-00469, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin R. Hillis authorizing a transfer of $5,000.00 from the Council District 9 carry forward account to the Council District 9 distribution account to continue serving the Atlanta community for the public good and for other purposes. Item number 21 is 21-00470, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation amount not to exceed $5,000 to Neighbor in Need from the Post 2 at Large carry forward account and for other purposes. And item number 22 is 21-0471, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing a donation amount not to exceed $5,000.00 to the Vanana Clayton Foundation from the District 11 carry forward account and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to approve each of those items, so that was 12 through 22.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 0 nays. These items are favorable.
All right, item number 23 is 21-00472, an ordinance by Council Member Carla Smith authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2022 general fund budget by transferring committed fund balance at an amount not to exceed $3,770,000 to the Capital Finance Fund budget by anticipating and appropriating funds in order to amend resolution number 21R3146 by updating the funding account stream for EA-S-1200169 supplemental staffing services and for other purposes. And I believe this is this talent available? I believe this is to support the building inspection division, but if you were on the line, if you would just confirm that that's the purpose of this paper, that'd be great. Or if anybody from finance can confirm that, what we're doing here.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Yolanda Clark. Oh, Kim, I'm sorry. You're answering. Go ahead. Thank you, Yolanda. Good afternoon. Sure, This is Fulton City Planning. And yes, Councilman, I wish to honor the inspection services, the supplemental inspection services.
Okay, thank you. That was a little bit hard to hear, but I think you said that is for supplemental services for the building inspection.
Yes.
Division. All right. I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
All right, that is the end of our ordinances. On to section J, our resolutions. Item number 24 is 21R 3696, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor who designee to execute the Third Amendment to Cooperative Purchasing Agreement CPS 1200570 uwork.com, doing business as Coventus on call IT professional services with uwork.com Inc., doing business as Coventus on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management to add one-year renewal term option to the agreement and exercise the renewal term option effective August 12, 2021 through August 11, 2022, an amount not to exceed $2,388,000.00. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the fund department organization account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. There is a substitute in the packet that adds the municipal court and Department of Customer Services. It also increases the amount and updates the account for Department of Transportation.
Second.
All right. The total amount in the substitute is $2,513,000.00. All right, let's open the vote on bringing forward the substitute.
The vote is open.
Dickens, yay.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you.
All right, make a motion to approve.
Second.
The vote is open.
Dickens, yay.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute.
Thank you. Item number 25 is 21R 3697, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to execute the First Amendment for FC 10314 citywide vending services with A Action Janitorial Services, doing business as A Action Vending Inc., to add the Atlanta Department of Transportation as an authorized user and to exercise the first renewal option on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management for a term of 1 year effective September 21st, 2021 through September 20th, 2022, a revenue generating contract to remit $2,500.00 or 20% per month, whichever is greater in revenue, all funds to be deposited in the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Open the vote. The vote is open.
Dickens, yay.
The The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
All right, the next item is 26, which is 21R 3698, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor who doesn't need to issue task order number L20047 for agreement. Oh, we're getting a little feedback. Agreement FC 10640A, job order contracting services large with Astor Road and Fox JOCJV for multiple facility renovations on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management in an amount not to exceed $264,254.27. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, account number listed herein, and for other purposes. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Open the vote.
Vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Oh, thank you. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
All right. Item number 27 is 21R. Hold on one second. 3699, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor who doesn't need to issue task order number S20040 for agreement FC 10641J, job order contracting services small with Kissburg Parker Fry JB LLC for renovations at Roosevelt Van Recreation Center on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management, amount not to exceed $605,676.48. All contractor work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed here and for other purposes. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Shepherd. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dickens, Jay.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Thank you. This takes us to section K, our dual referred items. Item number 28 is 21R 3666, a resolution by council members Joyce M. Shepherd, Justin Hillis, Michael Julian Bond, Carla Smith, J.P. Metzkite, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Alan Archibald, Jennifer Hyde, Amir Farouk, and Andre Dickens, urging the Georgia General Assembly to amend OCGA 40-2-20 registration and license requirements to add all terrain vehicles to the list of vehicles requiring registration and licensing and for other purposes. And this is coming to us from the Public Safety Legal Administration Committee. And Councilmember Shepherd, it was favorable out of your committee?
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
And I'm asking for your support. As you all know, and I think a lot of you all signed on to it, but thank you for that. I'm hoping that we can really lobby this year to get this done in light of all the things that happen with big car racing and ATVs that are hurting and killing people. I did this legislation before, but I'm doing it again. And we're politically at a different point at this time, and we're actually at a different point in terms of the fact that these ATVs are causing so much trouble. So we're hoping that if we can lobby the General Assembly in the state and ask them to actually pass some laws that would at least have us identify ATVs with a tag, and also contemplate having licenses, because a lot of kids are riding these ATVs who are young and they're getting hurt. And so those are the two things I'm asking. So I'm asking for a motion to approve, and I'd like to ask, once if it's approved, that we ask our legislative analysts to send it over to our elected officials at the state from the city as soon as we can. Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote. 770, 732.
The vote is open.
Dickens, Jay.
Will everyone please vote?
Did you get the Dick and J?
Yes, we did, Councilmember.
Oh, I'm sorry. A yes from Ide as well.
6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd, for doing this legislation. I think it is definitely important, and I hope the state is open to considering this. Let's see what else came out of other committees. I don't see anything else dual referred, and taking us down to our held items all the way down at item number 42, which is 21C0067, which was a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms appointing Mr. Philip Ransom Esquire to serve as a contract compliance hearing officer for the City of Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. My understanding is the appointee has asked to withdraw his name, and so I will make a motion to file.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dick and J.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is filed.
All right, Mr. Westmoreland had to step away. Is that where we're down to 5?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we are at item 48, which is 21R 3619. There is a substitute that adds the amount. So let me read the substitute caption, which is a resolution authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of $39,850.24. All funds to be charged to and paid from Fund Department Organization and account numbers 5051, Water and Wastewater Revenue Fund 00001, Balance Sheet Default 1226009, refund payable and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to bring forward the substitute. We're catching a little feedback from somebody's phone. If you think it might be you, if you'll put your phone on mute, that'd be great. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dick and J.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve on substitute.
I'll second that.
The vote is open.
Dick and J.
The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute.
All right. I believe that is our final piece of legislation. Is that correct, Ms. Kempson, right? Did I miss anything?
Madam Chair, we're all done.
Fantastic. All right. So we are now officially going to move into our summer recess for City Council, which will be from really this afternoon, but July 19th until the 30th. Our next full council will be Monday, August 2nd. My understanding is that that will still be a remote meeting. Is that correct, Ms. Kempson, right?
Madam Chair, that is our understanding, that Monday, August 2nd, the building will not be open to the public at that time.
Okay. So we are moving in that direction, but our August 2nd meeting, when we come back from recess, will be held remotely as we have been doing, and then maybe there will be some change later in the month. But thank you, everybody. I don't know if anybody else has anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn. Otherwise, I will make a motion to adjourn and wish everybody some time off, at least from legislative meetings. Give us plenty of time to handle responding to solid waste emails. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and we will be back together in August.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. All right. Let's do adjourn. Bye.